Would you want the younger you, the one from 5 years or 10 years ago, to come and dictate your life today with what they knew back then? 5 years, 10 years? I don't know how old you are, but 20, 30 years ago? Yep, that one. My answer? No, of course not. No way. But isn't it strange that this is exactly what we are trying to do when we set long-term goals of 5 years or 10 years for ourselves, for the self in the future? Basically saying, you are not going to learn anything in this 5 year. I am going to decide what your life should be. And the problem is, we set a treadmill for ourselves. We set it up. And now we are happy to go and run on this because it gives us a sense of ease. We don't need to think anymore about our lives. We now just have a direction and run towards it. This is much easier than not knowing. Our brains are not good at not knowing. Cognitive dissonance, it is called. And yes, it is true that if we work hard and we sacrifice a lot, which people do, especially in this world that is so obsessed with so-called productivity, which is false productivity, fake productivity. I get to that. We can achieve these goals, and people do. But see what is going on in the process. Rise of depression, anxieties, burnouts, dissatisfaction with life, which are all signs that we have been ignoring our lives for too long. But how can we ignore something that we are? How can we ignore something that is supposed to be the closest thing to what we actually are? As we talk about that a lot, if you have watched this channel, it happens when we start to live in our ideas about the world, about life, about ourselves, instead of experiencing what reality and life really is. Now, wait a minute, you might say. Am I supposed to just let everything go, not make any plans or goals about my life? Just go with the wind in any direction that it blows? Well, that is not what I'm suggesting here. I made another video on living purposefully, which you can find there or in the description, talking about finding direction in life. What I want to suggest is that we don't need to have an idea about our life to live it fully. In fact, any idea we have today in an authentic life, in a life that is fully lived, will prove to be inadequate, sometimes completely wrong or false or partial. This is the character of growth. And so it is possible to live a life that will flourish, which is productive, which is fruitful, without deciding what it exactly needs to be. And again, here on this channel, we talk a lot about compass or a map. A map is an image and idea we have in our mind, usually implanted in our mind. We heard it from other people. We saw it on TV. We saw something on Instagram, and I want to have that. That's usually a map. That's an image in our mind. That is how we can forget our lives, because we now live in imaginary world, in images. By finding our compass in life, which is basically what connects us today with life, it's sensed as joy and aliveness. I mean, it's life, aliveness. The connection is there. By following that connection, and discovering the things that we love in this way, becoming good at it, I believe we surpass any goal that we can set today. We just have to be brave enough, courageous enough to say, we don't know. I have no right to decide the life of the guy who will be me in 5 years. What I can do, however, is to set a foundation and a connection that will not be lost, that will be strong enough. It will be a ship worthy of the deep oceans. That is what I can do. So instead of building or setting these long-term goals, we are creating long-lasting foundations. For myself, and this is just an example, I gave up on those long-term goals, 5 years and 10 years. Instead, I rather do project-based goals, and that is different. Something for 1 month, 3 months, usually not more than 3 or 6 months. And something that is very important, which is gets almost all the time forgotten in our world, strangely, is that we are so obsessed with measuring things, and we set goals in this way. This is the perfect way to set goals for a company, for example. We can measure its growth, however we measure it, how much contribution it makes, how much money it brings in, or whatever your growth measure is. You can set the growth measure and say, okay, have we hit it? What can we do to get there? This is absolutely possible, but we forget and we try to implement the same method in a complete different domain, which is our lives. Because in our lives, everything that truly matters, like love, like friendship, connection, contribution, meaning, purpose, joy, happiness, all of these things are immeasurable. We cannot set goals to have 200 grams more love in 3 years. But we can set directions. We can find our compass that guides us towards the things that matter the most in life. For that, again, we don't need to go back to those type of goals. We set directions. We set up connections. We set foundations today that will surpass and surprise us in the future. They will show us what our lives can really become instead of what we can imagine today. So how is your life? What are your ideas about goals and goal setting, and how are you doing this? Your experiences, all of that, I'd love to know it in the comments. And as you know, interacting with these videos by liking or subscribing will help, at least if these are useful to you. Thanks for watching.